Hey guys, welcome back. It's 1 p.m. on September 1st, 2020, first trading day of September. So Tesla finally did hit we kept saying buy pullbacks on Tesla, buy pullbacks. It's got more to go, and that we weren't going to be using any technical analysis or channels because Tesla had just kind of completely blown out all the technicals and said that it probably wouldn't top out until you got to that 84 RSI. Well, yesterday we literally hit finally the 84 RSI. Last time we hit the 84 RSI, we had the big pullback from the 300 and 350 area. And then now we have this big move that we've seen. These are post split prices. So yesterday was a monster move. Look at the candle yesterday. I mean, that was equivalent to a 300 point move pre-split. I mean, unbelievable. I think we were up 50, 60 points yesterday, and we did a 5-1. So that would have been like a 300 point move when this thing was, up at the 2300, 2400 area, wherever we were before the split. So now we've kind of reached that area where things change a little bit. I'm not going to be buying Tesla so much on the pullbacks intraday. There's probably better plays out there, and the market entirely here looks. How much more can we keep going on the Qs? I guess is the question. Now we're above our channel line, and we've seen us above the channel line before. This is a long-term trend line, and we've held it for 4 or 5 days before the pullback on the crazy COVID madness. So I'm not expecting that same type of pullback whatsoever, but we could also hold it 3 or 4 or 5 days for a little while and then have some type of correction. And I think some of the fundamentals that you see with this ZIRP policy, zero interest rate policy by the Fed, all these different things, stimulus checks, people flooding the market. You definitely have the professional traders and money managers 100% in the market. I think they're actually like 115% in, which means they're leveraged in some level overall, which is kind of crazy. But I don't think you have full saturation in the retail market, but you're probably getting close. I would have thought the opposite, but the numbers say the retail market's lagging a little bit here as far as traders that went to cash with the big pullback here. They really haven't been completely sold on this move, and now they're like they can't stand to watch anymore. And they're pouring cash in. So all the ingredients that we need for a market top are kind of in play here, but we're not trying to pick a top here because we've been burned a few times trying to do that. Just to get some stuff out of the way, I did finally sell HAPP. Couldn't stand it anymore. I'm just it's a big loser for me. Upsetting because that was one of my little micro speculations that I liked. Qualcomm I got rid of. Hit our target price. We told you it was probably going to hit around the 123 along the channel line. Doesn't mean I can, or 121 and change, 122 and change. Doesn't mean it can't go higher, and I expect it to probably grind higher as long as the market kind of hangs in there. But when it was down here around this 110, 111 pullback, I said don't get frazzled, even though the market's super strong. I said Qualcomm kind of moves to the beat of its own drum, and then we have this nice extension here, and that's also kind of getting up in the RSIs too, which is kind of what we've been using. It doesn't get as crazy as Tesla on the 83s and 84s, but it tends to get to the 76 and 77 area and kind of slows down. So that's where we're at on Qualcomm. An interesting stock that I wanted to point out today, and let me just get one more house cleaning point out of the way. DRRX I gave up on too as well. I was looking for a move on this one within this little pivot channel breakout, but now we broke below the 200. We back tested it, and now we're failing. So I don't know. Probably get a little bit of a bounce back here at the pivot around 158. So maybe tomorrow or Thursday it might be a good intraday bounce trade because we are getting oversold here on the RSI, but you still have some downward trajectory and some gap separation on the MACD, which I don't like to see. So fundamentally, I thought the company was going to hang in there and make a move, which kind of brings me to another interesting stock that I will take a shot on here. And it's just the way it's acting. It did have news out, but don't chase this. I think you can be patient. JNCE, and it might have been a little bit of a short squeeze intraday here that got this move, but usually on these pop and drops, and it was high as 1181. That's 1 minute candle in pre-market, so don't put too much weighting on that. But it was kind of hanging in the $8 and $9 area pre-market, and then we started a channel, and then we started to break down a little bit along this like kind of intraday pivot, and then we back tested the channel and then pulled back, and then it just popped through. which is interesting because usually when you see a stock like that intraday, and it looks like one of these little one and done deals. I think they had some news with either Gilead or I forget who it was they had a partnership with. Now this company is profitable. So I do like the company. So I think maybe in the sixes, it makes sense to take a position in here. But I would only take a half a position because if it does get back down into the low fives, I'll probably add because I do like this chart longer term. And now I'm starving for stuff that hasn't run like a madman. So let's get rid of that. And this you can see usually these big pop and fades. We kind of saw a pop and fade intraday here, but now it's starting to curl back up and show some support, which could be short covering, but it's also interesting to keep a note on that as well. So we could see this kind of drift back in, maybe into the low sixes, but I wouldn't be opposed to taking a small position in JNCE. It looks interesting. And we'll keep an eye on that one. Zoom, oh my god, what are you gonna say? Zoom blew out. I was talking to one of the earnings traders last night, and I said they're probably gonna crush it, and if they don't, it's gonna get slammed. But I think maybe this is put in a top two temporarily. The numbers were impressive though, and now you're finally starting to see some PE expansion, some E expansion, I should say. But yeah, hell of a move. It looks like it has topped out though, but it didn't see a big volume at the top of there, so it could curl back up and make a run later in the day. We'll see. It's a little bit kind of waffling in between this little channel marker here where it broke down, right around 441, and then up again to this little peak area where they kind of sold it around 454. So it's kind of neutral here, but it keeps pulling up and then kind of curling. Not a bad looking chart though, even intraday from this massive pullback, but what do you expect? The thing's had a hell of a run. Walmart looks interesting here for the longer term. I know they killed it on e-commerce, but we're a little late to that party right now. And then CLDR earnings after the close. This is an interesting company too that I took a position in after the close tomorrow. I believe the earnings, Cloudera. I think they finally got their act together. It's kind of an ugly chart on, let's look at like a 5-year. Let's look at, I might get an intraday here. Let's look at a 5-year daily, and you can kind of see it's had a lot of spits and spurts and stops and whatnot. You know, this crazy movement there. Basic double bottom at 4, and then with COVID, obviously it got hammered. But you can see further back, this is kind of a weird looking chart. Seems like it every time it tries to get going, it comes back down again. But now it's kind of like this long-term channel is looking a little bit different, right, in shape. Because now you have these different peaks that you kind of change shape on over time. I guess this would be an area kind of looking at that like that. And now you're starting to kind of sit around that area for the first time where you didn't just have these pops and then massive drops. Now you're kind of hanging out and curling back up. Maybe earnings pushes it through that high and gets you into the 14s. There's been a lot of speculation too about a possible acquisition or at least a merger with another company, but now you're above the 50, 20, and 200. So I kind of like the technicals on this one, and I think it's one to keep an eye on. I don't know that I would chase this into earnings, but it looks like an interesting company for sure. I think your support level is probably around 12.20, 12.30. So if they do announce earnings and it sells off, I think it's an interesting speculation because I think the management's kind of turning this company around, and there's some positives looking forward in a company that hasn't had a massive run yet, and I don't see a lot of those out there. So keep an eye on that one as well, and we'll go from there.